have you ever heard of the stepping stone method?
But in chess, it's fine if your opponent pays the pill for thinking. Because
True.
now when gf3, opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And when I get to the end of the variation that I'm calculating, I try to visualize one more move.
Oh man! Oh, I just noticed it.
Right, guys? So I'm pretty sure that we have all been there. Quick, the same question. When I do my tactics, I do really well, but when I'm playing a game, no one is there to tell me, oh, there's a tactic, see if you can find it, right? So what I'm wanted to do in this video with Grandmaster Avetik Grigoryan from Chess Mood, we're going to sort of put together what we already know from our course and when he could add from the Chess Mood experience. And basically, I put everything on this table for you to keep it in mind. And this is what I want you to do. Every time I get to a position where my intuition is telling me, you know what, there might be something here, I want to look at my candidate moves by ranking. First, any checkmates, of course, that's pattern recognition, checkmate. Then we have checks. After checks, we're going to look at checkmate threats. And after, we're going to have captures. So if any of those are not going to work for me, finally, I'm going to look at general threats. So maybe creating a threat on a piece that I could capture after. But ultimately, what I'm looking for is basically moves that are going to limit the possibilities of my opponent. So if I could make a move that leaves my opponent with only a few options, that's going to be attractive to me. Because if I just move, let's say, a random pawn, they could move all of their pieces, any piece. So I want to look at checks, threats, things that are going to make my opponent just have 2, 3 options, and it's going to be even easier for us to calculate. The first ones, guys, are going to
Let's
be
go then.
pattern recognition. So for the most part, I'm going to be looking at, if I show you the table one more time, it's going to be checkmates. If we've done this, our brain immediately should be looking for those checkmates. If I don't find any checkmate, then I start with the checks, then see if I can create threats and so on. So first one is going to be rook a8. I realize the pawn on f6 is controlling the escape square for the king, so I just need to hit him with a back rank checkmate. So rook a8, that's mate. This one, the same thing. Is there any checkmate threat? Well, I have a battery, rook and queen on the f file. If I take on f1, no one can take me back. So perfect. So this one, I see there's a pattern there with my knight controlling the escape squares. My rook could hit him on the back rank. This one, either you've seen it before and it just comes to mind, or you look at the checks. Rook b1 is a check. I realize the king cannot escape. That's it. Rook b1 checkmate. All right. Okay, so this one, the same thing. Maybe this pattern is not that familiar to me, but I'm looking at checks. My light square bishop from g4 could go to f3 with a simple check, and my bishop from e3 is controlling the escape square on g1. So bishop f3 quickly, that's checkmate. Then this one, the same thing. I'm looking at the king, I'm looking at the checks, and of course I quickly realize I have other pieces to help me out. I have the bishop on b3, cutting the light squares around the king. My knight is controlling e8. So the first check that comes to mind is bishop takes d6, and that's checkmate. All right. Now let me just have fun now that they're easy, because soon they're gonna be so easy. So here, guys, same thing. King is exposed. I have my queen and knight in the area, and I need to look at checks first. Of course, one thing that I always recommend is if you see two pieces that are developed or close to the king, you want to see how they could work together. Many times that's just the way to go. So here I see queen h2 is defended by the knight, and it leaves the king without any escape. So that's just a quick mate. Okay, so this one looks more like an endgame. It's black pieces to move, and when it comes to endgames, we have talked about, well, it's black to move, right? Yeah, black to move. We've talked about mainly has to do with passed pawns. So it's going to be or a passed pawn or an active king that could help us get the passed pawn. So first thing that comes to mind is advancing the pawn. So if I go d2, can the king get to it? Well, I don't think so. So pawn d2, king cannot get on time. It's not in the square of the pawn. There you go. Perfect. So
Yeah,
the
it's not
square.
in the square, so it's
Excellent. Now, another pattern, bishop on f3, the king is exposed, the pawn on g2, the g pawn is gone. So I have bishop and queen. We've seen this so many times, but I need to be careful. I want to get to g2 with a check, but I got to be careful with the white pieces. So if I go to g6, I'm going to lose the queen. So I need to use g5 check, and then the queen and bishop checkmate on g2. Perfect. All right, that's made. Now,
Super.
okay, so black pieces. This one is the same thing. I'm looking at checks. I only have the queen, so I gotta be careful with the rooks. The first check that comes to mind is f3 and e4. I realize f3 is not safe, so I'm gonna go exactly. So I'm gonna go queen e4 check, but then I need to calculate. And guys, we're getting close to the part where Grandmaster Avetik's experience is gonna be useful, because now it's not only pattern recognition, but it's also going to be about calculating. So after queen e4 check, what could they do? If they block with a rook, I take it. If they move the king to g1, well, I'm going to go queen d4, and I'm going to be doing a fork because the rooks are not coordinated. And this one is interesting because we had a lesson on how the two rooks could be better than the queen, but only when they are coordinated. And the two hanging rooks, of course, we could do queen e4, and we get one of the rooks.
So one thing here, I will just, from this point, I will share. In the Tactic Ninja course, I share this technique, 3 questions to ask to find tactics in the real games. Of course, what everything you said, it's absolutely correct. At first, check the checkmate. So these 3 things will be just supplementary for that.
Okay.
So what I have designed, how to notice, because people are solving tactics but missing a lot. So there are 3 questions to ask. The first question is, can opponent's king be in danger? Like we have seen already 9 puzzles when opponent's king was mated, yeah?
Yes.
So this was first question. Second is there something wrong with opponent's pieces? We haven't seen examples with that yet. And the third one is, what are the resources of the position? And with resources, often what we need to see, what are the opponent's undefended pieces? So in this case, if you look at that, okay, here is one resource and the king is open. So this is a resource for us. This is clear, like indicator to us. If we can give a check, we can win this rook, either this rook.
Exactly.
If you didn't have this pawn on e5, this would be also a great resource. But with this pawn, it's tough to get this rook. Yeah, there is this pawn.
Exactly.
But this is a clear target for us. So if you think this way, I think many amateurs, this helps them. So like we are on 10, we will use this technique a lot. What are the resources we have? So here we go, check as you said, and we take the rook.
Excellent. So this one, again, I get to this position, like you said, it's a little bit trickier now. So it's not only about pattern recognition, but we have to be able to visualize and calculate. So first move that comes to mind is queen e8. I have the battery with the queen and the rook. Queen e8 seems counterintuitive because I'm giving my queen, but I cannot just ignore it, guys. Many of us, we just say, oh, I'm going to lose the queen, and we stop. We have to, even if just for a few seconds, look into it. Queen e8, rook takes. Only move for the king is to go to g7, and then my knight on h4 could take the pawn on f5. And not only is that check, it's also controlling h6, and my rook is going to be controlling the back rank. So it all started with my pattern recognition, but then I had to visualize a few more moves. So there you go.
Super.
This one, again, I'm going to look at the checks. It's not so easy to find checks here. The only one is with the knight. So I have knight c7 and knight f6. Now, knight f6 looks more attractive because I'm controlling the 7. I'm leaving the king with only one square. And of course, knight c7 will be a hanging knight. But I have to consider it, guys. So knight f6. Now, my intuition, my calculation skills should allow me to see that the king has to go to f8. And then what do? Well, same thing. I have a battery with bishop and queen. So I could go queen h6 check, counterintuitive, but it's forcing. And then after the rook takes me, bishop takes back. That's going to be checkmate. So there you go, guys. At this point, we do need to be able to visualize. Okay, so knight f6.
Yeah, but do you agree that when you just know tactics, but you are not very good with mating patterns, it really doesn't work? It should be two together. So like here, yeah, if you are not aware of this mating pattern, when the knight and covers the squares, it's no matter you know pins or fork, it will be very tough to start to find it.
Exactly. Let me ask you, Avetik, do you have, I know I went through your, I haven't gone through every single course on chess mode, but do you have anything specific about visualization, or it just comes like you teach it along with the tactics in general?
Okay, yeah, so visualization I'm going to cover in the topic calculation course. But one thing is that don't agree with many coaches is the following visualization. Like people, I think they are spending too much time on visualization on low levels. There is like kind of myth always visualization, lots of ups, lots of this. So when you do visualization, it's of course useful, very useful.
Mhm.
But the question is, I have even written an article. Why is it a useful is a bad question.
Hmm.
So the idea is that we have limited time. We should do only things that are most effective, most productive.
True.
And yeah, visualization is of course useful, but I believe especially if you are a novice player, just solving tactics like this, just when you do it hundreds, you start to see the board better. You start to visualize. I bring this example in math, yeah. So if I am just novice in math and I hardly keep in my mind 5-digit numbers, no matter how much I visualize, I will not get there.
True.
But if I do all the time maths with my papers, I do, I can like see that. So visualization is important thing, but I think it's more important to really spend serious time on it when you are 2300 plus. Otherwise, I know many grandmasters that did never worked on their visualization. Like
Exactly. It
never,
just
never,
came. It
never.
just came from everything else.
Yeah, it's because every time you do things like here, you calculate, it comes. You start to see the board better.
Exactly. You force yourself to do it, and I guess it ultimately comes down to just developing your intuition mainly, and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, yes, exactly,
All right.
exactly.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. There you go, guys. So
Here we're getting mated, so you need to find
exactly,
it. How to go?
exactly. So this one, okay, of course, first move that comes to mind is promotion with a check. And then I see that the only move my opponent has is king h2, and I keep reinforcing this idea, guys, leaving my opponent with the least amount of possibilities. And that promotion leaves him with only one. And then I see a fork on d6, so queen d6 check, and I get the bishop. Without that bishop, there's no checkmate on my king with the rooks. So
Yeah,
here,
this one
uh,
is exactly about the resources. And when the king is open,
mhm,
opponent's king is open, we have a queen. This is a very very key question we can ask: are there resources? Because when the king is open
mhm,
and we have queen, any piece somewhere on one side of the board is undefended, we often just check and take, check,
exactly,
take. Like here, yeah, it's open. We have a queen, and this bishop is undefended. So you give a check, you get this. Also, you defend the g7 square, and okay,
and
you
there's
are
no
a
more
queen.
checkmate. Perfect.
Yeah,
And now that you said that, I think it could also maybe I think it could also work the other way around. It helps us remember that we need to keep our pieces defended. If we have pieces
exactly,
hanging, then we're gonna be the victims
exactly,
to the tactics. Perfect.
exactly. So when you have that opponent's queen, your king should be as safe as possible.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So this one, the same thing. Very easy when you look at the checks first. I have two rooks, and something else that I don't know, Avetik, if you talk about it on chess mode, if you think it's good advice, but whenever things start to get difficult for me, I start to look at count the pieces on the board, and that allows me to understand, get a feeling for the position. See, first, if what my pieces are doing, like here, I realize one rook is caught in the seventh rank, the other one is caught in the fifth rank, but also it tells me if the exercise is going to be about winning material or checkmate. I don't know if this makes any sense, but for example, here I see that I'm down two minor pieces and like one pawn. So in my mind, to help me do this difficult tactics when I get there, I'm thinking, okay, I'm down two pieces. This has to be about checkmate. Or if the material is even, I know it could be maybe winning a piece or winning two pawns. That might be sufficient for the exercise. So I don't know if that's something that you advise to get an idea or feeling for the position and then work on it, or just look at the patterns first and then look at everything else.
So this is a very good question, Robert. I mean, if you're training to become puzzle world champion, this is a very good thing. But it can confuse you and distract you this if you are playing a game,
Mhm.
because in actual game you never know the result. You
True.
never know, you need to mate, you need to draw, you need to do what. So uh, one thing here, it's common in the Soviet Union chess school. It's when coach is giving you position, they never tell you what you need to do. It's draw, it's win, mate in two, mate in three. They never tell you. And
Exactly.
then when I'm looking more Western books, it's like books mate in two, mate in one, mate in three, mate in two, mate in one. So this is something very very I think useful when you don't know.
Exactly.
So like if you're a coach and you have a novice students, maybe you give them from 20 homeworks, 15 made in one, 5 made in two. So with this one, you keep mind open that I never see that. I will briefly show you one thing. So at Trash Mode, we have daily puzzles.
Hmm.
They are not standard puzzles. They are more about opening like creativity.
Exactly.
And in these daily puzzles, um, it's planchet mode is going. That's why it's a bit big. Like here, we write just white move and
Hmm.
nothing. It's
Exactly.
win, draw. It's what we never give it.
Exactly.
But so for solving puzzles, when it becomes difficult and you just want to keep the record, get 70,
Exactly.
yeah, it's of course it's useful because we are pieces down. We need to make it.
Exactly. No, and
So
I'm
how do
glad
you
that
make
you
it?
I'm glad that you
Yeah,
mentioned that because there's some books that I recommend people to start with when it comes to tactics, and there's one that I think is called Tactics Time, which they just give you random exercises, and then you don't even know what it is about. There's another one by Albert. I don't remember his last name that I have it also listed on the in the description where it's like 300 patterns you should know or something like that. But the book is so good because number one is really tough, but then maybe number 50 is really easy, but you never know what it is about. So I guess it reinforces
exactly.
what you're saying.
Yes, yes, yes,
Perfect.
yes, yes,
But
absolutely.
with that said, so not good to do that, but sometimes I do it also because since we're not playing this game, like when you're playing a game from the beginning, you keep track where your pieces are, you're familiarized with the position. So
Yes,
that's also why I
yes.
was saying it. If since this is just brand new to you, maybe it's a good idea to see what the
So yeah,
pieces are, how they're working together, and so on. But ultimately,
yeah.
guys, in a real game, um, that's not the idea. You just want to trust your intuition. Hopefully, it's developed properly, and that should allow you to find the right
Yeah,
move.
I think especially if opponent's king is safe, the first thing you need to do is to see the material.
Mhm.
If opponent's king is not safe, like here, yeah, it doesn't matter. Opponent has 3 rooks, 5 knights. Anyway, you mate, so you just our intuition just says mate in one. But if opponent's king was safe, let's say the king was here on a6, yeah,
Mhm.
okay, we have to play the material. What is like we are up down, like we have to.
Exactly.
But when the king is weak, often you can just see, can I mate in one? If yes, okay, you just do it
If not,
like
can we
here.
create a thread and so on? Yeah, no, I think everything now is showing as they get more difficult is going back to the advice that you gave at the beginning. Tactics, tactics, tactics training because your brain is quickly going to tell you that king is in trouble. Let's look for things. If you've never done tactics
Yep,
training properly, you're not even going to realize there's something for you here. So you're gonna be doing something
yep, yeah,
not so
yeah,
relevant.
absolutely.
All right, so here, with everything we said, rooks are cutting the king off completely. We just need one single check, and that's going to be the pawn on h4 going to h5, and the king is checkmated. Yep. And I'm glad that I said piece of cake now because soon I won't be able to. All right, so this one, endgame, guys. Typically, rook endgames are very complex, but this one, I'm thinking of can I get an active king, a passed pawn? And I realize if I just simplify into a king and pawn endgame, then my king is going to be more active. I'm going to go after the pawn on e5, and then my king is going to be closer to the other pawn. So it should be easy if you have the prior knowledge of how to win king and pawn endgames. And I know that we had a very good lesson on lesson 29.
That's the interesting part because I think there's this common mistakes that people watch a course, read a book, and they think they know it because it's not enough. You should like really do it. It's just knowing thing. It's not enough. The same way, like there is no books that I can read and I become a best like good marketer. I can read it and I become a good actor. It's like
Exactly.
you study something, but you need to implement them. So I'm going to break down our endgame courses to levels soon.
Hmm.
So I'm going to kind of crush the courses and put it by levels. So this is what you need to know for this level, for this is for what level. But if we speak about opponent games, we try to put there everything that until 2000 level, like you need to know. They are
Exactly.
must know. They are just must know positions. Without complicating, I put that theoretical endgame course in a way which is only must knows because endgame is so much. There are 10,000 of boring positions, but there are some things that really must. If you don't know, like here, yeah, if you don't know, if you go a bit further and get these pawns,
Hmm.
like up at the end when it's stopped, yeah, if you don't know how to win it, you have a problem.
Exactly. When it's king and pawn, you have to know it. All right. So this one, I quickly realized there's a pin on the rook on c6. So I'm thinking, if I could get that, if I could get the rook for free, this should be winning, because I already counted queen, two rooks on each side. My opponent has an extra bishop, but if I get a rook, I feel pretty good about that material wise. Now, that rook is defended by the rook and queen. So whenever that's the case, I want to do something. There's a defender, in this case, the queen or the rook. I want to think of, can I eliminate the defender? Can I interfere? Can I deflect it? And in this case, the first move that comes to mind when it comes to deflection is the pawn on e6. I realized that if I put the pawn on e6, then I'm interfering with the queen's defense on that rook. Now, can they take the pawn on e6? Well, if they take it with the queen, I'm happy to get the queen with my rook on e1. Excellent. But if they take with the pawn or bishop, then that's the interference I'm looking for. Then I'm going to be able to get on take on c6. And then lastly, they cannot take on c6 with the rook because it's pinned. So I don't know what you think, Avetik, but I think a6 has to be the move here.
Yeah, exactly. And this is when I said at the beginning, the second question, is there something wrong with the opponent's piece? It's exactly like here. Something is very wrong. This rook is pinned. This rook is barely defending it. The queen is defending it, and something is wrong here. So when there is something is wrong here, it's signal to us, can we do something with these pieces? And it comes, can we interfere there? Can we destroy their defense? And as you said, the a6 is just completely accomplished it, yeah?
Exactly.
And now I take, right?
And also going back to what we said at the beginning, it's also a very good indication for us to avoid these situations. Don't get yourself pinned, because then you're just setting yourself for tactics later. Okay? Sometimes we're like, you know what, it's just a pin, no big deal. But then before you know it, your opponent has 20 pieces around that pin piece, and you want to avoid that. So stay out of trouble. Right. So this one,
yeah.
I don't know if you have covered this one in this pattern in detail, but we had a lesson on the Greek gift. And this is the first thing that comes to mind. My bishop is on d3, hitting h7. The king is castled there. My knight is ready to jump to g5. My queen is ready to jump to h5 after. So guys, here you could get to it by looking at the checks, by calculating, but also if you've seen this before 20 times, you don't even have to invest time into it. So bishop h7, king takes, knight g5. If the king goes to g8, well, queen h5, threatening checkmate on h7. If they go to g6, you also, of course, calculate, or if you know it from before. And this is another thing. Now that we're getting, this is what, number 25, 24. I always advise people to really calculate as much as they can, even if they're like, because some people, they get frustrated and they're like, you know what, it should be bishop a7. I remember this. Let me just give it a try. And my advice is, before you do the first move, calculate as much as you can. Even if they're not going to ask you for the answer, do it for yourself. Like, see if you can practice that visualization. Bishop a7, king takes, knight g5, king g8. I think queen h5 is completely winning, because then checkmate on h7, right? And if I remember correctly, they could do something like rook e8, but then we have queen f7, right? Oh, no. Yeah. Wait. But can we do queen a7 in this case? Queen a7, king f8. No. They escape. So we have to do queen f7, right?
King
h8. Then queen goes back to h5. King g8, queen h7, queen f8, queen h8, king e7, queen g7, and that's mate. With queen g6, the first move that comes to mind is queen g4. And I'm even threatening a discover check and queen h4 and so on. But now I'm thinking, can I do queen d3? Can I do queen d3 check? King g6. If queen d3, if they go to h6, I go queen h7. If they do pawn f5, that's the move I have to consider. I have en passant. E takes f6. No, what if queen g4? What could they do if queen g4? Oh, they could do en passant too. E takes.
My advice in this case is so
talk to
now we were recording the course about attack,
Mm-hmm.
and in the section sacrifice, we came up to the question and we figured out the people are struggling to understand where to sacrifice and when not to.
Exactly.
So we come up with some rules. So the first rule was sacrifice if you can calculate and you think it works, you mate or win material. Second, you still sacrifice if you don't feel fully, but your heart says there should be a mate.
And that would be intuition, right? Like when you say
Yeah,
your
yeah. So
heart,
it's a bit
yes, you.
strange advice,
Okay.
but if you do that way, you just believe in your intuition and you go. At some point, you develop such an intuition, and this is how you improve. So if it was me here, I would just take h7.
Okay.
I play knight g5, king g6, and then I would calculate because I believe after king g6 there should be 4 5 ways to win.
Exactly. Exactly.
For lower levels, it's tougher, but this is I think advice we decided to go with. If you believe your intuition should go, just trust yourself. Go. Sometimes you will be wrong, and whenever you are
Exactly.
wrong, this is exactly when you just very improved
Exactly.
because when your
That's
mistakes.
actually great advice, and I'm glad that you said it because there are two things that come to mind. Number one, I think that's how Kasparov defeated Deep Blue, right? I think it was mainly by using this same idea. Like I don't think he could calculate more than the computer, so he had to trust his intuition when he
Yeah,
played that computer
yeah,
back in. Yeah. And then the other thing is, I was telling them I was reviewing one of the games from the tournament. We were talking about the tournament that I played recently, and there was one game where I decided to sacrifice a pawn because in order for my opponent to get it, he had to give me the dark square bishops. So I was telling them when I first learned about this, especially by studying Karpov, I was like, you know what, Karpov is Karpov. I might not see my pawn back. I'm not gonna go for it. But at some point, I tell him we have to give it a try, and the more we do it, the better we get at it, and then we play at a different level. So with what you're saying now, it's the same thing. We gotta let ourselves go and just give it a try, and maybe we miss it 5 times, but then we just become a better player by getting into it. If you never do it,
yeah.
you're going to be limited the remaining of your chess career.
Somebody asked Ford, one of the richest people, yeah, and how what's the main secret to become like rich like that? You know what he said? He said, trust your inner gut, trust your intuition.
Yeah.
You will be mistaken a lot, but with time you will get such an intuition that you just always correct.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I guess intuition there could be also experience, right? So you get an experience that
Yeah,
is
yeah,
invaluable.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So what we do? We take it, yeah. We take it and then decide what to do.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna take it, but I always like to for just for me, I like to calculate as much as I can. I think if they go to
That's the
g6,
right.
if they go to g6, I think I'm just gonna go to queen g4. All right. So maybe I
Queen,
change my
queen
mind
G4,
after. Yeah. So maybe I change my mind as I go down the path, but I'm going in with queen g4. After the king goes to
queen
g6,
G4. Okay.
it's gonna be clearer.
You will
Maybe I
stop and decide one more time. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Let's do it.
And also for puzzle rush, you should do this because after knight g5, you don't know where the engine goes to g8 or g6,
Yes. Yes.
so
True.
you will
True.
save your time. Okay, you see, you didn't need to calculate what to do after king six.
This is the easy one. This is the easy part. There you go.
Now we queue with the queen. Okay, and it stopped.
That's it. Perfect. All right. So here, same thing. I realized the king is not ideally defended, and I have my queen pinning the rook on g7, my rook putting pressure through the back rank. I have a bishop on d6, so there has to be something here. Now, one thing that I want to start doing, guys, like before, is looking at the checks. So two checks, or actually three checks. Rook, well, with the queen, well, rook first, rook first. So I have rook takes rook, and I quickly realized the queen could take me, and I didn't make any progress there. I could do queen takes rook on g7, but bishop could take, king could take, not so good. But then there's queen e6, and queen e6 is very a beautiful move because the rook is pinned. So this is like safe. And now, thanks to my bishop on d6, excellent. They can only either move to h8 or block with the rook. In either case, I'm gonna have now two attackers on e8. I get the rook for free. So there you go. And so far, by using that, looking at the checks first, it's been sufficient to get on the right path at least. So there we go. Now
Super.
yeah, here now we get the rook. Now here's a good question: should we take with the rook or with the queen? Definitely with the yeah, definitely with the rook. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty even. So taking with the rook keeps the pieces on the board, and we continue to attack that exposed king. There we go. And now here, look. So far, ideally, we should have calculated everything from before. But now we get to this point, materials even, the king's still in trouble, and you could just do it all over again. Look at the checks. And I don't know, Avetik, have you ever heard of the stepping stone method?
Stepping stone, not really.
No? Okay, I'm glad that you said that because probably, like you said, probably you just studied tactics and everything developed. You didn't have to go to it. But I read about it. This book where the author talks about the stepping stone method, where basically what you do is you calculate. Let's say you're able to visualize 4 moves. That's where you can visualize without getting blurry. So they tell you to calculate those 4, and then really visualize that position, make it comfortable for you, and then from there you that's your stepping stone. So you calculate another 3 or 4 moves down the road, and then try to visualize it. So I don't know how much sense that makes to you.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, it's a good point. That I paraphrase with different way. I say, guys, if you work with Chessbase has that tool when you click and it adds diagram. Yeah, so try when you calculate in your notation in your mind, add the diagram there, and from that diagram continue. So yeah, I
Mhm.
got it.
Okay, perfect.
Nice
All
one.
right. So here, I guess I'm looking at Queen G4. It has to be a very good check. Then King has to go to H6, or they have to give me the bishop. I'm fine either way. But if King
Yeah,
H6, I think Bishop F4, and they have
and
to
it's
do
just
Bishop
mate.
G5, and then just mate. Yeah, perfect. Avetik, what do you think if you just do a few on your own? Just maybe you have a different approach than mine. And then
No. Go ahead. I
I
think
keep
soon
going.
we will. Soon we will. Yeah. Keep going.
Man, I'm trying to get out.
Keep
I'm
going.
trying to get out of it so that I don't look bad when the difficult comes and you don't
No.
let me.
Go. If you need to go to take a water or something, okay, I can continue.
don't, don't
Otherwise, go
don't
because
don't make excuses.
no, because you really do everything super with your
Okay, good, good.
method, how you do and how you teach people. It's super. It's nothing I cannot.
All right,
So
good.
I'm just
So
following till now.
then let's do it. So here, I look at the checks again. I'm hitting F3 with pawn, queen, and rook. So I want to start by looking at it. Of course, I'm gonna take with the pawn because I don't want to lose the queen. But then what happens after? Well, the king could go to the back rank, H, G, or F1. It could go to F2, and it could go also to H3. So I need to consider everything. If you find yourself, guys, just going with the first move and then see what happens, you better stop doing this tactics training because you're not gonna get much out of it. So unless you're doing it for fun. Hmm.
Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, go
In
ahead.
your lessons, have you got already to the topic of elimination?
Of what?
Of elimination, when you just eliminate the moves and you
Uh,
just there is one move left.
exact, the process of elimination. Okay, yeah.
You have covered that lesson already,
You
or
know,
not yet?
we like those are things that we've talked about along the different lessons. Like we don't have one lesson for it, but whenever we have the
Okay, but you have
opportunity,
talked about it.
yeah, we've talked about it. Yeah.
Got it. Do you think that we can just take it and just take it and then nothing to calculate because we are 2 pieces down and there are no alternatives? Do you
Hmm.
think we can just take?
Well, yeah, I think true. Now that you talk about it, yes, true. That's a very good
Because
point.
there are many cases opponent king can go, yeah,
Hmm.
but at least we continue to attack. I think if we had some alternative, let's say queen d2, we cannot just do that move, yeah, because we have
Exactly.
alternative. But when we don't have alternative, maybe just take it and then see.
Okay. Okay. Well, let
Yeah,
me ask you this. Let me ask you this because you mentioned something very good, and I think that's also going to save us energy, and it's going to make it easier because if we
yeah,
have one more move on the board, it's easier to calculate the rest. Good.
and also you save time. So
Yes.
this example I bring about about time management.
Hmm.
So I say, guys, if you are going with someone to some cafe,
Hmm.
yeah, it's not very good to be greedy. Yeah, it's like you maybe pay the bill or you share the bill. Yeah, you don't let your friend to pay the bill every time.
Exactly.
But in chess, it's fine if your opponent pays the bill for thinking. Because
True.
now when GF3, opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moves.
True.
Okay, let's take and the opponent pays the bill. And while opponent thinks where to go, we can also think that time when he's paying the bill, we can think, okay, if king goes left, this stuff right there. So we
Well,
can make
yeah,
opponents pay
that's
the
a very
bill,
good
yeah.
point. There you go. There you go. That's a very good point. And
Especially in Puzzle Rush when you will just do one move.
no, you're right. And you know the thing is that you realized something I did not realize here. You realized that we're so down in material that it only makes sense. So it's not like the material. But I did not even look at that. So with that information,
Yeah,
that's great advice. Just save time. Go with the move that you know is going to be the move anyways, and then you calculate. Perfect. Don't make it harder on yourself.
yeah.
All right.
Guys,
Perfect.
just don't this mistake. If there is alternative, if there was alternatives, it would be mistake.
Exactly.
If there was any alternative, it would be a mistake. But if no alternative and we are not down, this is the only move that keeps attack.
There you go. So check, they go
Now,
down, and now obviously we have to continue to be energetic. We have to be try to continue to either do checks or put pressure. And now there are two things. F2 is a move that has to come to mind, but there's no check, and I don't see any concrete continuation after. The other move is queen takes h2, ready to do queen g2, queen e2, or queen e2, queen g2 with a queen and pawn checkmate that we know. Now, one thing before I do it, and I know you're gonna be like, okay, this is a move that we have to do, just do it. But I want to pay attention to the checks that my opponent could do. So if I do queen h2, I see they could do queen h7, and I'm gonna lose the queen. So these are candidate moves, but I have to be very, very careful with it. So is there any check at all? Well, queen c1 is a move that comes to mind. So that's not going to allow the white pieces to do anything to me. So this has to be good. So this is a move that I think I would do right away. So queen c1, only move is to block with the rook. I take it or move up. And then I think I could do queen b2 check. It's the only safe check on the second rank. And then I could use the help of the pawn to deliver mate on e or g. So I think that would be mainly by using the process of elimination. I think we're going to get there, like you said.
yeah.
So check. There's nothing better. And we take. And there we go. Perfect. Okay, so this one, pretty quick pattern comes to mind, knight and rook. So I'm thinking, oh, if I could do rook e8, mate. Oh no, but they could go to d7. So I gotta look deeper into it. Now, if rook e8, king d7, can my other rook come into the game? Well, rook g7, but then they could block with a rook. Now, can I take? Take. Okay, what am I missing here? Okay, rook g7 first doesn't make sense. Rook e8, king d7, rook g7, rook f7. What am I missing here? Oh, yeah. You see, now we have to calculate a little bit more. So let me start from the beginning. Rook e8, king d7, rook takes g7, check. They're forced to block with a rook on f7. And now I was a little bit stuck here because I'm thinking, when I take on f7, they take back, I take with the knight, the king could take on e8. And I'm like, okay, I didn't win anything. But if you are able to visualize that far, you're going to realize you have knight d6 check after fork, and you get the bishop on e4. Then it all makes sense. But here we have to use a stepping stone method again and visualize, guys, and look until the end.
Super.
There you go. Then rook takes. And then they get the rook, but then we have the fork. And there's something here as well that I like to do whenever, if I'm calculating, I'm playing a game, I'm calculating, and when I get to the end of the variation that I'm calculating, I try to visualize one more move. Like when everything settles and it seems like it's the end, I try to tell myself, you know what, just calculate one more move after, even if the position is dead or the variation is ended, just to see, and that could be helpful. So, all right, so we get the bishop.
Yeah.
5. Now, here, black pieces. This one has to be queen takes e2 is the first move that has to come to mind. King takes, queen g4, king h1, queen f3, king g1, and then rook g8. I think it's pretty forcing. Yep, I don't think we're missing anything.
There is also king h1.
You see? And then I guess queen. Okay, now we have. You see, now I have to calculate. So
yes,
they're not forced.
But this is
mm-hmm.
This is very important what you said rook g2, because many people here in calculations, they start with another move like queen h3, queen g4, yeah. But as you said from the very beginning, always checks first. So this is correct relation to calculate, because check, queen f3, and then rook joins and mate. Exactly. Now to just see what the king h1.
Exactly. So the main part now is paying attention to what our opponent could do. So not play mechanically and assume they're gonna go for the move that you have in mind. Right? If they go king h1, of course I'm thinking queen h3, but then what if they just start putting me?
You should still continue your method
with checks, right? So
yeah, so take here.
We have rook h2, king takes, queen d6,
and then with check try to bring the rook.
But then, okay, so let's say they go king g2, rook g8, and if they go to f3, you have queen.
Yeah, this knight covers the square.
This is queen f6.
Covered.
Yeah.
It seems all covered.
Yep. So here you see this one, rook h2 is just hard to see. At least for me, it was hard to see the maneuver of the queen coming in and the rook, because it seems like the queen and
d6, yeah.
rook cannot work together after rook h2, but they do. Yep, queen d6. Wow, nice. All right, so rook h2.
If you do this, it comes check, and now opponent starts to.
Exactly. But you see here, I wanted to highlight something. Like you immediately knew that it was rook h2 because you calculated the whole thing. You were like rook h2, queen d6. So you calculate that. For me, I had to first realize that queen h3 doesn't work because of the checks back here,
Yeah.
and then I'll go and calculate. And probably I'm gonna find it, but it's gonna take me longer because I didn't have the ability
Yeah.
to see the whole thing quickly. But you, in no time, you saw rook h2, queen d6. So there you go.
I think probably it comes because I have solved more and worked more on attack, and the same way Carlsen has worked more on attack than me. So that's why Carlsen is better than me. I'm better than a 2200 player.
Exactly.
So it just comes to that with experience. And here, by the way, I would not calculate. I would stop my calculation. It's kind of my experience shows that no way, king, queen, knight. I have here these pawns. I don't need to calculate. So
your intuition is telling you. Your intuition. Yeah.
Yeah. Now again, we continue with checks. Yeah, we can also play rook g8, but it's slow. Yeah, we just checks.
Exactly.
Checks. The rook should come. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Nice. All right. So
okay, now we need to mate this king.
Yes, black to move. They have 2 pawns. This is definitely not about endgame technique.
Yes.
Check. Okay, the only annoying
So
thing.
we have few moves. Yeah, it's like rook e1 looks, but rook f7 is a very unpleasant
exactly.
check. So maybe it's start from here, threatening king f3 and mate.
And then if check, we just get out of the way with a check ourselves. And
yes, but then we need to continue calculation because check, opponent goes here somewhere.
So rook b8.
Like we can give check. We can give one more check. Good, we have at least a draw.
I'm glad that you're saying that because I never think about it that way. So if you find at least a drawing, so it's easier to take the risk. Yeah. Okay, so
we have. Oh, we have. You know what, Robert? We can go king e1.
Wait. If they go king b6, then rook e6.
If king g. Wait, we are black, yeah? So it's king. So king g3, check.
Check.
What is this? No, nice so far. Maybe.
So yeah, so rook to check go king e1.
But you can kill so for that's g3. Try yes. That is okay, no. Oh man! Oh, I just noticed it. It's daily puzzle kind of. It's like when you need to turn on the fantasy and find this move.
And then king g3.
Yes. Oh wow! This one was.
That's creative.
This one was nice.
But you know what? We didn't find it because we didn't apply what we talked about at the beginning. Look at checks first. Nice.
Check, yeah, yes. If he did check for exactly, very nice. From the very beginning, you said, guys, checks,
and now we're not following it. Yeah, man, that's a nice one.
Very nice one. Yeah, king g3 and cannot defend.
Yeah, that's it. And mate, wow. Honestly, the main thing that I wanted to get out of this is your input and see what you've been doing on Chess Mood, so that people can use that combined with what we have already talked about, and also to do what we did. Like whenever I got stuck, there was one level where I couldn't handle it anymore. There you went in to see what I'm lacking, and people can see the difference. And then also all of the tips that you gave, like that one of keep working when you're already tired. If you're doing this to improve, if you're training, you get tired. That's when you have to push through, and it makes a lot of sense, even for me. So anyhow, Mr. Thanks a lot for doing this. I think we have a lot of content here for people to review, and hopefully they go and check out Just move.
Thanks to Robert. What was very cool. Really starting always with checks, even if it looks like stupid move. It's good idea, especially that one with endgame we couldn't solve.
Yes, yes.
It brings us back.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely. It's funny because we give all of this advice and then we forget about it. We just don't follow it, thinking that we have better things to do.
in the end game, we often forget. Yes, that can be like just beautiful tactics. If somebody
Exactly,
gave you and said like puzzles, some study, you would find it. But if that,
exactly, exactly. No, but
right, man.
anyhow,
Thank you very much, dude.
no,
Thanks for all
thank
the
you,
advice you are
thank you.
sharing with the chess world. It's very good one. I was following all your puzzles that you are solving. That's your thinking process. Everything is super, and I'm proud that you are one of the guys who are teaching people, because there are lots of people who are teaching a lot nonsense. Your thinking process, how to find the most super. It was
No,
very cool.
thank you. It means a lot coming from you, my friend, and hopefully we get to do more things in the future. Enjoy your vacation, and we keep in touch.
Super. All
All
the
right,
best,
man.
my friend.
Thank you. Likewise. Bye.
Bye bye.